Welcome to the Australian Hiker Podcast, Australia's longest running hiking podcast, downloaded over 1.2 million times worldwide and providing you with an Australian perspective on all things hiking. We're your hosts, Tim and Jill Savage, coming to you from Ngunnawal and Ngambri country.
In today's episode 319, brought to you by Keen Footwear, we do our annual industry supplier interviews. We hope you enjoy. If you'd like to help support Australian Hiker and this podcast, there are a couple of ways that you can help us out. Firstly, by subscribing on your podcast host of choice so that each episode is available as soon as it's published. And if you have the opportunity, leave us a 5-star review. Another way to support us is go to the Australian Hiker website at www.australianhiker.com.au and click on the Support Us page and buy us a coffee. You can do a one-off donation or become a monthly supporter. All donations are greatly appreciated and help us to continue producing this podcast and blog. Now let's get on to today's episode. On an annual basis, Gill and I go through and meet with industry suppliers, typically at one of the local trade shows, to find out what new gear has been released and what gear we can look forward to in the coming year. Early in March of this year, 2025, we were due to go up to Brisbane for the annual trade show, and that unfortunately coincided with Cyclone Alfred, and as such, the trade show was cancelled within about a couple of days' notice. So we thought it might be, and sure enough, it was. From my perspective, we were going to wait until later in the year, but we found out this show was cancelled for this year entirely. And while there is talk about a replacement trade show occurring later in this year, we're just not sure what was going on. So we decided that we'd go through and talk to a number of the suppliers. And in this case, this episode, we're talking to 5 suppliers just to see what's happening in their neck of the woods. These 5 interviews will go through and give you an indication and almost provide you a bit of overview about what is going on in the outdoor gear space, and this is probably worldwide. At the end of the 5 interviews, I'll talk more about the specific pieces of gear that they've discussed, and we'll also talk about the trends that are happening in the outdoor industry. And there are a couple of that have been very consistent over the last few years, but there's also a couple that you may or may not be aware of that's changing the face of gear sales worldwide. If you want to see the gear that we're talking about, go to the show notes for episode 319, and we'll have some images of the gear we've been discussing. And in some cases, we've done reviews of these already, and we'll direct you to those just to see what's going on. In this interview, we're talking to Andrew from the North Face. Tell us a bit about your role in the company brand to provide an overview to our listeners.
Okay, well, I'll give you my official title, which usually draws blank looks from people, but officially I'm the Senior Manager of Omnichannel for the North Face in Australia and New Zealand. That's really just a fancy way of saying I'm the head of sales. So I oversee sales for our distribution channels, which is retail and wholesale, as well as online. So I work closely with our retail team, our wholesale team, and our marketing team in Australia and New Zealand to bring the North Face brand to the market. I've worked with the brand for coming up on 18 years now. I first started back in 2006 or 7, losing track of time. They must have been 7 in our retail store in Pitt Street. And yeah, been working on the shop floor and in wholesale and now more recently in sort of more brand management over aspect of the brand. I spend a lot of time on spreadsheets as well.
And I think last time we talked to you, I think before we formally started the interview, I think we decided it was around about COVID period. So, it's people seem to stay with a brand or stay with the industry for long periods.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got a team that has been a lot of tenure in our team from Paul, our general manager, to myself and other members of the wholesale team and our marketing team, some long-standing employees. And I think, the unifying factor that I see is just a high general passion for the outdoors and getting outside ourselves and getting seeing people get outside as well and having fun in the outdoors. It's all motivated to work for the brand and in the industry, and particularly in in Australia and New Zealand, it's a pretty small industry as well. So I think when you find a good position and a good team to be working with, definitely try to hold on to that because it's pretty special for sure.
So what's so special about the North Face? I mean, from my perspective, the thing that I think a lot of people will think about with North Face is their down and synthetic jackets. But what do North Face do and where are they heading philosophy and sustainability wise?
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I think for me, there's a lot of things that are special about the North Face. It's a brand that's been around for a long time. It's, I would say, the oldest and one of the oldest leading outdoor brands in the world. And next year actually marks 60 years of the North Face, which is exciting. I was here when we had our 50th anniversary, which is pretty cool. So I don't know if 60 will be as big, but still a good milestone. I think what the brand does really well on a number of levels is it builds products for people for a range of uses. So, whether we're talking clothing, footwear, equipment, through tent packs and sleeping bags, it's got such a broad range of product to offer customers, and it's been doing that kind of since day one, essentially. Very early on when the North Face started, it was founded on finding good gear that wasn't readily available at the time. I think a lot of the stuff that we really take for granted today, like lightweight sleeping bags or, warm jackets, geodesic dome tents, those things didn't really exist 60 years ago. And the North Face has really played a leading part in bringing a lot of those innovations to the market and really pushing forward what we do in the outdoors and what people can do in the outdoors. So, I think a really long history of designing innovative product for the outdoors is what's special about the brand. And it's a lot of that comes from working really closely with the North Face athlete team, who, we talk a lot about athlete tested, expedition proven, and it's really a standard that the North Face relies on and adheres to build, best in class product for mountain sports and for people that want to push themselves in the mountains. But you also get that, trickle down effect to product that, general outdoor enthusiasts can use every day in work day, weekends, however they want to engage. The brand also, does work really hard to set standards for sustainability and building community as well. So, looking after the environment that we play in the outdoors. If we don't have that environment, then we can't do all the fun stuff that we do in the outdoors. And also, building community and bringing people together in the outdoors, and also enabling or inspiring people to get outside as well in the first place. Personally, for me, I do love the high level of great storytelling that the brand does. But for me, inspires me to get outside and have fun, which is great.
One of the things that seems to be big within the outdoor industry and that the outdoor, whether it's winter or summertime, is the push towards sustainability. So what's the North Face doing in relation to sustainability in their product line?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Tim. I think the North Face has had a really long history of doing a lot of good things that aren't necessarily always front of mind when people think of the brand. For me, a big one was in 2014, the North Face helped to create the Responsible Down Standard, which really led the way in responsible down sourcing and making sure that the animals that were providing the down that we use in our jackets and sleeping bags were well cared for the life that they did have, and ensuring that a very high standard was set for their care and the processing of those animals, and ultimately the product or the materials that make its way into those garments. But now what's really interesting is sort of, over a decade later, we're seeing a really big shift into recycled down. So we're, seeing less and less virgin down being used in clothing and sleeping bags, as we see a really, big improvement in the processing and the systems to get old down garments or items back, take the down out, wash it, regrade it, and then get it back into new products to use, which is really quite cool and exciting. I had a interesting sort of little nugget that I liked was it was like a little bit like the John West. It's the what is it, the fish that John West rejects or whatever. But they were saying the down plumes that kind of make their way through that recycling process. You kind of got the toughest of the tough kind of thing, if that makes sense. You've got these really hardy down plumes that can go on, can keep going on, insulating us for a long time to come. From a recycled fabrication perspective, the North Face has a goal to be 100% recycled for polyester, nylon garments and fabrics by 2025. So we're very much due for, an update on how that's tracking. From what I can see when when you go through our catalogues and our workbooks, when we're building our range and working with customers, pretty much the vast majority of garments now in our range would have a very high percentage of recycled content, if not 100% recycled for the fabrics and fills and things like that. So I don't know if we're at that 100% target yet, but it's definitely getting very close to that from what we see. Footwear and equipment is a little bit behind that goal of 2025 for apparel, and the goal there is by 2030. The interesting thing now, I guess like we see with a lot of these things, often it's getting the supporting infrastructure that needs to be in place to enable brands, particularly a brand like the North Face, with the scale that it has in the market, to be able to bring a franchise of product to the market as recycled fabrication. There's got to be the underlying sourcing system to provide enough fabric or material to do that. And that's, I think, what we've seen in the last few years is catching up with the demands of the brands and what the outdoor industry wants and what customers demand or want to see in their garments as well. Is that now the whole system seems to be able to support the level of material required to do that, which is great.
Given the whole push of fast fashion and the amount of waste in the cheap garment side of things, it's good to see that this, which is, I suppose you'd class as a specialised clothing or item range, going to that sustainability side of things.
Yeah, I think the one thing we often talk about with our customers, and sort of the one of the first points of sustainability is, okay, do you need to buy something new? But if you're going to buy something new, or if you're going to make something, make sure it's built to last, and then it's going to stand up to the rigors of the environment that it's going into.
So now on to specific pieces of gear. So what's new and amazing that people might be interested in that's come out late last year and first half of this year?
Yeah, so for us, like right now, even though we're sitting here where it's June in Australia and it's nice and wintry, the new product in the market for us is coming from our global spring summer 25 line, and generally there's always a good focus on, we see new footwear come out often in the spring summer range versus winter, which is often more focused on insulation and snow sports. So for us, some exciting things we've got is the latest iteration of our Vective trail run footwear series. So that's anchored with two of our Pinnacle Summit series trail running shoes, our Summit Pro 3, Summit Sky 2, and also our more general trail run franchise, the Endurus, which is a a name that hopefully is familiar to those that know the North Face running shoes. We've had an Endurance shoe in the franchise for a long time. It's kind of our ever reliable do everything trail running shoe. But yeah, we've got the latest iteration of Vective. For those that aren't familiar with Vective, it's a three-pronged attack, but essentially you've got a propulsion story with different versions of rocker plates and rocker midsoles to help propel the runner forward or the hiker forward. Really nice cushioning stories. We're using nitrogen-infused Dream foam in our Summit shoes, and then our durable surface control rubber outsole in there as well. That's in run. For those that are familiar with Vective, it's a name that we might have heard in the past in relation to our hiking shoes as well. So Vective went quite wide in our footwear when it first released, and it's scaled back that it's a dedicated run technology. On the hike side, this season we've got our new off-trail hike collection, which we're really excited about. For us, it's our latest offering in that, I guess, that really competitive footwear segment where you're sort of, I call it, you do everything synthetic hiking shoes and boots. For us, that's formerly the space of our iconic Hedgehog franchise, which we've also got back this season as well. So Hedgehog, it's an old name, slightly updated, but I guess it's a fan favorite. It's a shoe that a lot of people know, and it's very reliable. It's, Gore-Tex, Vibram, that classic package. Off trail is a little bit more technical than your Hedgehog for that customer, that person that wants a bit more of a, progressive or aggressive hiking shoe. It's got some nice detail with Cordura ripstop fabric overlays over the forefoot to help durability and abrasion resistance, especially if you're in rough, rocky environments and giving the shoes a real hard time. Speaking to that, sort of rocky environment, we've got what we call our Skycore rock guard underfoot. So again, taking some of those trail running inspired technologies like rock plates or strike plates under our forefoot, bringing that into the off-trail hike shoe. Obviously a very familiar, tried and trusted Gore-Tex membrane as well for keeping your feet dry. So yeah, that's new, sort of dropped in March, April, and feedback that we've had from the crew in our retail stores selling it alongside the Hedgehog as well is, people are really liking them, having a good time. And one of our good proving grounds is our Queenstown store, which, coming in that late summer period when they got those shoes, lots of good interest from customers who are actually buying them and pretty much walking out the door to go do a hike or something in the South Island of New Zealand.
I must admit, unfortunately I got size 15 feet, so but Gill has got one of the new hike models to test out in the coming weeks. So she's used the North Face range in the past and likes them. So it'll be interesting to see how these ones come up. They're a good looking shoe, so it'll be interesting to see how they go.
Yeah, I assume it would be the off trail. So yeah, look forward to hearing the feedback on that one for sure.
And the jackets is the other one you were going to talk about.
Yeah, so a new piece for us this winter season to talk about actually came out in the fall line over summer, but obviously, as we were discussing earlier, winter is here, and it's a good time of year to be thinking about insulation. And for us, a new franchise that we're talking about is the Terra Peak, which some people might be familiar with our Thermoball technology. Thermoball was our synthetic insulation that we released, I think, in about 2014 or thereabouts, 2013. And it was, at the time, it was quite a revolutionary synthetic insulation fill when, at the time, synthetic fill was generally just a classic sheet of synthetic insulation stitched into between two outer and liner fabrics. They're quite bulky and quite heavy, whereas Thermoball was that synthetic fill that really did its best to mimic down and be very packable, have a lot of loft like down, but unlike down, performed really well when it got wet and it still kept you warm and didn't retain a lot of water, which is really, really good. We have a new fabric package here that has a Pertec Quantum base fabric, a more traditional baffling. I think people that are familiar with thermoball would recognize the classic square baffling pattern, and it was synonymous with thermoball for the whole, and it still exists in the thermoball range today. But Terra Peak just gives us a more modern update. It's more of a traditional tube quilting, like a micro baffle down jacket. So much so when you put them up in a showroom, showing wholesale partners and that, they're like, oh yeah, it's another down jacket. It looks like a down jacket, but it's synthetic fill. So yeah, bringing all those good benefits of synthetic, but in I think a more commercially appealing package than maybe what the traditional thermoball look was for people.
I was going to say, I must admit, both Gill and I are using the Terra Peak jackets, and I think when we tested them out to start with, we thought, oh, this is a down jacket, and because it just feels like a down jacket, and they do look good as well. So we've been very happy with those, and I've been wearing mine for a lot of the day because it's quite cold where I am. So
yeah, no, they're just a lovely soft face fabric. It's 100% recycled Pertex Quantum face fabric. Your fill is 100% recycled thermoball. You've got some really nice stretch gussets under the arms for ease of movement, nice elastic cuffs that don't take up a lot of bulk. And yeah, it's two zippered pockets. You've got hooded versions, jackets, and vests as well. So, and for men and women. So you've got a really nice family product there. And feedback from our retail crew selling them on the floor has been really positive, and yeah, people are really, really liking them. So a nice update there for sure.
Okay, no, that's good. So that's the gear that's on the market at the moment, and certainly particularly for the cooler weather coming through, people will be starting to look at jackets. What have you got coming up for later on this year?
For us, later this year, we're really excited to have the 25th anniversary of our Summit Series collection. So Summit Series is a product collection that's synonymous with the North Face. It was first released in the year 2000, and essentially, Summit Series it took the athlete expedition or the layering expedition system that the North Face had been working on for many years, with things like the iconic mountain jacket and pants that were released in the 80s, Denali fleeces, Nupsy jackets, that whole package that came together. Summit Series is bringing that product all together under one brand banner to say, hey, here's the place to shop from our range to pick your expedition kit, or if you're going on a trip, here's our layering system that you can pick and choose the pieces you want to build the ultimate kit for anything you're doing. So for us, it's our pinnacle product for climbing, skiing, and trail running now. It's in Summit Series as well. And you've got a new release, or the latest release of that 25th anniversary product launches later this year, and it's pretty much a all new Summit Series line. It'll still feature key pieces of outer shell, multiple different insulation options, from big heavy belay jackets to our micro baffle Braythorn down jackets. You've got your Ventrix dynamic venting insulation layers as well, which are a team favourite of ours. Your Future Fleece, high pile fleece layers, and base layer and jackets and pants. So it's a really comprehensive collection, and really excited to see the relaunch of some new Summit Series pieces in the market later this year.
Okay, that's good. So we've been talking to Andrew from the North Face. Thanks for taking the time to update us on what this well-known company's been up to.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Thanks for making time for us.
In this interview, we're talking to Ross from Cedar Summit Australia. Tell us a bit about your role, the company brand, and provide an overview to our listeners on what you do and what's so special about Cedar Summit.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me. My role is ever-changing, I suppose. Currently moving into a category management position with Cedar Summit, which is pretty exciting. So we're still Perth-based, so Australian-based, design-driven company that is selling our product to over 70 countries globally. So nice Australia success story, and I'm excited to sort of spend a little bit more time sort of grouping our wares and showcasing our great products to some of the markets outside of outside of Australia, which is good. And I mean, what makes us different is, I suppose, our continued sort of design-driven approach, solving problems for people, whether they know they exist yet or not, whether that's, helping you have a more comfortable night's sleep so you can enjoy your adventure, or, making dinner time easier when you're outside. There's a lot of design sort of nuances in all of our product, and those design differences are what stand us apart.
Okay. And I think one of the things of talking to you and a number of other manufacturers and suppliers over the last few years, sustainability has been a big push into the industry. Is that still the case, or has it just become business as usual and you don't really think about it anymore?
I mean, I suppose it's becoming business as usual that we have to focus on it, which is a great thing. And yes, I think the outdoor industry, our end consumer is more in tune with the impact that we're having on the planet. So it's a huge thing for us. We as a brand are making notable steps. We don't like to jump up and down and sort of lead our conversation with what we're doing. We would like the product to lead and the benefits that we're offering in our products. But there's a lot of improvements that could be sort of responsible sourcing of insulation. It could be Blue Sign approved recycled fabrics. There's lots of stuff out there. Could keep going, but no, it's great, and that's being driven by a lot of other places around the world, be it legislation in Europe or retailers in the Northern Hemisphere. So, still top of mind for sure.
Okay, that's good. So, what's new and amazing as far as Cedar Summit for 2025?
We have. It's interesting. I've been with the business for over a decade now, and we find ourselves in a cycle where we kind of have a really big product launch every 2 years, and then the middle year is slightly smaller. And 2025 is a slightly smaller year for us, but the product that we've introduced is really exciting. So, sleep systems is where we've really excelled as a brand, introducing our Air Mat technology in 2013, sleeping bag range that's extended, pillows, and then of course liners. In 24, we updated a lot of our down sleeping bags. So in 2025, you're seeing some synthetic bags enter the mix. Synthetic for us, bringing across some of the functionality, anti-snag sliders, improved temperature ratings, and real functional features in the bags. Their price is a consideration for synthetic users. So, bags around that $200 mark, which is nice, but still offering the technical performance that you might want out of a 2-3 season.
If you're able to tell me, what's the sort of split between down and synthetic for Cedar Summit? Is it my personal choice has always been down sleeping bags, but synthetic bags do have their place. And apart from that, the cost, as you say, is much better for a lot of people. But what would be the split in sales, do you think?
So it's a really interesting question. And this is quite consistent around the world as well for us as a brand. So we play in a space where we're selling to the customer who wants to save weight and wants something packable. And in that regards, down insulation is always going to be the winner. It comes with a premium price, but it's the better performer for its weight. So our split is around about that 85% of down insulation to 15% synthetic. And like I say, that's pretty much the same around the world for us.
Okay, yeah, I'd always wondered about that, and then I think certainly I think if you're going to be hiring sleeping bags, synthetic's probably the way to go, rather than giving someone a $900, $1,000 sleeping bag to take out and trash. But certainly, as you say, just the packability and performance. I do love the down sleeping bags and we've been Cedar Summit users for a number of years.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they do well. And then the other products that we've introduced this year are a couple of updates in our sleeping mat range. And so we've adjusted some of our self-inflating mats. And teaser, there'll be a bit of more of that to come in 2026. But the other one worth highlighting is updates to our Etherlight sleeping mat. So we introduced the Etherlight. It's a 10 centimeter thick ultralight air mat in 2019. And we made some really nice updates in 2025. And those updates have allowed us to offer greater insulation. It's around 28% more insulated, but much lighter, smaller, and really pleasingly a lot more durable as well. Peace of mind when you're out camping and needing a good night's rest is massive, cannot be underrated without sacrificing comfort.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's sort of, I think it's really interesting. I think a lot of people tend to focus so much on the sleeping bag, which is important, but it's no good having a really high grade sleeping bag and going for a really, really low grade sleeping mat. You do have to pair them as a sleep system. And I think I've gone away from the lightest sleeping bag, the lightest sleeping mat that I can find, more given I'm a larger guy, so going for a slightly physically bigger sleeping mat when it's inflated, but also slightly warmer as well.
Absolutely, warmth, and then comfort. It's a funny one. We talk so much about it. You can't always experience it by just looking at the specs. We love people to be able to try out product. We're seeing more rectangular shaped mats, for example, being sold. I use one myself, and to me, that just offers a little extra comfort. And to your point, Tim, it's people realizing that saving weight all the way doesn't always
No.
help. It might save a few grams in your pack weight, but if you lose a few hours sleep after a long day, it's going to really impact your trip.
Yeah, no, definitely. Now, what's so different in relation to the upgraded Etherlite sleeping mats?
Yeah, face value, and if you were to sort of compare the two visually, it's not super obvious. And we have remained Etherlite as the name. It's the XR now. So construction-wise, and this is where it's nice to go into some of the design details. One of the big things for us was updating the insulation inside. So we've moved to a TRM insulated layer. It's more efficient than what we've previously had, and that's where we've saved a lot of weight and a lot of the pack size. So that's allowed us to increase the insulation to an R value of just over 4 for the standard XR. And we have an XR Pro, which, remember off the top of my head, that's got an R value over 7 now, which is pretty awesome.
Were they the ones that were originally the black version, and are they still the black version?
Correct. They are still the black version. And I mean, for context, if anybody's experienced or seen the Etherlite Extreme as it was previously, this is 80% smaller in pack volume. It is
That's pretty
chalk and cheese compared to where we were previously. And that pack size is really, really critical. So it's warmer, it's more packable. And the other piece that's really worth talking to is the durability. The nature of an air mat is that it can be susceptible to punctures, and you don't have any built-in redundancy. So if you do have a leak, or you do have a puncture, you can be pretty stuffed. So we wanted to level up the durability on our mats. What we've done is, in saving weight with the insulation, we've not banked it all. We've actually put some more back into the construction of the fabric to make it more durable. Talk about the TPU laminations, and we're talking at 0.03 millimeter thicknesses here, and how we do infinite amounts of testing to improve that durability. But what we've settled out with both the weld strength and the fabric strength itself is something that's around about 200% more durable than the previous version, and that reliability is something that we're really excited about rolling out.
So they're more durable, they're lighter, and they're warmer.
It's kind of tick the box. Yeah, that's why I'm pretty excited about it. And feedback so far, so we launched these a few months ago, has been nothing but positive, which is really pleasing.
How's the price gone on the new mats? Are they? These days everything seems to be going up all over the place. But are they similar sort of pricing, or are they?
They also went down a little bit in price too. We thought we'd give you that extra tick as well. I don't know if that was a loaded question, whether you knew that or not, but no, we've got to be conscious. No, we made a decision to nudge the price down a touch as well. So no, we're pretty excited. It is really it ticks the boxes along all the way.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good. So what about for the rest of 2025 leading into 2026? Is there any new and exciting product that you're able to tell us about? It's coming up.
Always happy to offer a tease. We typically launch product. New product arrives at the start of each year, and so we're in the process of currently presenting new products to our retail partners for next year. So for 2026, and just last week over in Perth, had distributors from around the Asia Pacific region coming and seeing product, which is great. Always awesome to see and hear their feedback. more tweaks to sleep systems, which is quite exciting. So where there's been some updates in some self-inflating mats, you can expect to see those on others. What would be my favourite? Keep an eye on pillow range. There's some pretty nice pillows coming around the corner too. So it's the one that we haven't changed for quite some time.
Yeah, that's a funny sort of product. I mean, I've used a number of the Cedar Summit sleeping pillows, and that's what we do tend to use if we are carrying pillows with us. And it's hard to sort of work out what you could do to actually improve those, apart from making them lighter and cheaper, I suppose, and more durable. But
there's so much in there, and I think pillow has become something that it's not a luxury piece anymore. Everyone realizes that there's a lot of value in taking it with you. So we've learned a lot in the years that we've had the range. I'll say there's plenty of copycat products out there as well. So it's nice for us to re-stamp our authority as a leading brand in the category and bring some notable improvements that comfort and reliability have to lead the way for a product like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's you can always get something really cheap, but if it's not durable, if it's not comfortable, the price really doesn't matter too much. It's it's a bit of a false economy buying cheap, and you're losing out on every other aspect. So it's good to see that there are some improvements being made and some prices coming down as well.
I know, surprise. There you go. There's some good news, huh?
We've been talking to Ross from Cedar Summit Australia, telling us about all the great new product that is on the market already and is heading to the market in the coming months towards the end of the year. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us.
Absolute pleasure, Tim. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so in this interview, we're talking to Brian from Keen Footwear Australia. Tell us a bit about your role and the company brand to provide an overview to our listeners on what your brand does and what you do.
My name's Brian Logan. I'm the brand manager for Keen Footwear in Australia. I've been with Keen now for 11 years, and the last couple of years as brand manager. Keen's part of our overall business, which is Phoenix Leisure Group. We primarily deal in all things outdoor, but my focus as such is predominantly with Keen Footwear, everything from range selection, the key account management, obviously liaising with Keen in the United States as far as product launches, marketing, etc. And obviously dealing with our internal sales team around Australia as well, both sales reps and our internal sales team in our own customer service area. So pretty encompassing, but great brand to work with, great ethics behind the brand, so very enjoyable.
Okay, so tell us a bit about Keen Footwear. The name footwear, but what do they actually produce, and what's the key focus for them?
Yeah, sure. Look, at Keen as a brand, it's relatively new, I guess, in the bigger scheme of things. It's originated in 2003. And then, look, the nice thing about it is it's still a family-owned business as such. Rory First, who's the founder of the brand, is still involved. They don't have a big board of directors and shareholders, so they have control really from inception of their products all the way through. So it's all based on their own vision, what they feel their fan wants. They speak to their fans consistently and get feedback and produce product that I guess is versatile, that suits the requirements of the Keen fan. They, as a company, they own 40% of their own production, so they can control it. Like I said, they can control their product from its inception right through to the end result. From day one, they've strived to design and manufacture a product with a difference, a product that's hybrid and multifunctional. As per their fans' desires, it's important that it's unique to Keen's DNA. The product ranges from the original Newport sandal, which in its inception nobody wanted. They weren't trying to produce a brand. It was more about here's a product we think that's a gap in the market. They weren't trying to, like I said, produce a brand. It was more about here's a great design product, and tried to, I guess, sell that design to outdoor footwear companies. Most laughed at them and said that's the ugliest sandal we've ever seen. But I think sort of 80 odd million pairs later, they've been proven wrong. So instead of trying to sell it, they decided to trade it themselves. So, and continued down. Everything's really come from that one sandal. We've now moved into obviously hiking product and so on, into lifestyle comfort product and trend product. So it's quite a large range nowadays. But here in Australia, we predominantly deal in the outdoor market with our hiking product and our sandal product. We do sort of dip a toe in the more trend-driven areas, but which is very much focused on what's happening globally. But our focus is very much in outdoor and hiking and sandal product.
Now, one of the big things that seems to be going through the outdoor industry, probably for the last 5 to 6 years at least, is sustainability. What does Keen do in relation to sustainability on their products?
Yeah, well, look, to be fair, Tim, that's been a focus, a key focus from Keen's point of view from day one. They very much produce product that is environmentally conscious in the way that we manufacture it. For the last 10 years, it's been a mission to detox toxic chemicals from the manufacturing process. With there's sort of 6, I guess, key classes of toxic chemicals that we found in supply chains, and at this stage, we've knocked off 5 of those. There's one last sort of bastion that we wish to overcome, and that's the use of glues. So beyond that, Keen is they harvest materials in the product, from anything from PET plastic bottles, reusing offcuts of leather that may be in car seat manufacturing for small pieces, like in the tongue of product. Anything that we can recycle, pretty much we utilise. I believe that's important, as important as upcycling. But utilising product that will end up in landfill was every bit as important. So we source ethically. We use leather working group to source all of our leathers, so that we ensure that our tanneries use zero wastewater, so there's no offshoot going into the watershed. We no longer source hides from Brazil because of the Amazon being deforested at an alarming rate to grow cattle, so we refuse to source any hides from Brazil going forward. And it's about detoxing the planet, as I sort of mentioned. We've been PFAS free since 2018, the first footwear business to do so. So eliminating all those forever chemicals in the production of our product. Something we're pretty proud of. We don't sort of sing it from the mountaintops, but we think it's pretty important to produce a product in an ethical way. And probably most importantly is durability. Really, durability is every bit a part of sustainability. It's all very well to manufacture something environmentally friendly, but if it ends up in the land refuse, well, we haven't achieved too much. So specifically with some of our product now, we're very much focused on not only sourcing it ethically and using harvest materials, but also about the durability of the product. With a test lab that we have in Keen that does 1,000 flexes of product, we put it underwater just to make sure that the waterproof membranes last for that period of time and the sole units aren't going to delaminate. So it's all encompassing, to be honest, and that's been a focus from Keen from day one. We're not finished yet. Like I said, we've sort of eliminated 5 out of the 6 harmful chemicals that are used in footwear manufacturing. The last bastion is to find a solution to using glues. So that's the next step. That's the last thing we want to tick off the box.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And I think it's interesting. I know that it would have been late teens, early 20s. All the outdoor companies were talking about sustainability, but I think it's now moved on almost to a point where it's just business as usual. I think it's just something that you and other companies do, and as you say, it's working towards how can you improve it. But it's I think it's almost like you don't tend to talk about it much these days. It's more about, well, this is what we normally do. So it's good to see.
Well, it's a must. It's a must. I mean, the whole reason we go outdoors is we love nature. So why would you want to do something that harms it? As I said, Keen's been pretty much from day one, and that's been a focus for them, and they sort of leading the way in a lot of cases.
Okay. Now, certainly from my perspective, I've certainly known Keen from a couple of different models within your range. So the Taji range, and in fact, I've actually got one of the Keen Taji for hiking shoes. I've also got one of the Keen sandals as well. That's my main sandal of choice. I don't know what it is. I just find the leisure sandals that are pushed for day-to-day use around the streets, I just don't do a lot for me. So the outdoor adventure sandals like Keen produces are really good. So what are the key products that, in particular, that Keen's released over the last year or so? And then if you're able to tell us what's new coming up in the next year or so.
Sure. Yeah. The one that you mentioned, obviously, the Taji boot. It's we're actually next year will be the 20th anniversary. The current model is the fourth incarnation, if you like, Taji 4, which we're pretty proud of because, as we sort of mentioned earlier, talking about the sustainability and durability, it actually received the Time Magazine Award for Best Invention of 2024 for revolutionary durability. So the major difference between Taji 4 and our previous incarnations is in the production technique where, again, as I mentioned, we're trying to eliminate using glues. It's actually the sole unit is actually bonded, fused using Keen Fusion bonded onto the upper, so there's actually no use of glues in that. When it's actually produced an extremely durable bond. So we have a lifetime, for the lifetime warranty of the shoe, we have a guarantee that will not delaminate. As no doubt you're probably aware, Tim, do a bit of hiking, that delamination is probably the enemy of hiking boots. So since we've produced that Taji 4, we've just seen an incredible feedback from the consumer that it just holds together extremely well. On top of that, there's the sole unit of it is using a different compound from previous all-terrain rubber compounds, that it's actually 2 times more abrasive. So not only are we looking at the way we produce it, but the durability of it as well. So that's been a major improvement. That's still our sort of number one, if you like, from that sort of core hiking product. The Newport sandal that you mentioned that you wear has been around now from its inception in 2003 and continues on. The latest update we have in a sandal was a sandal called Hyperport sandal, which actually received the ISPO award for best new product. It's a lighter, more comfort-driven version of the Newport sandal. Still has all the key attributes, wet grip rubber outsole. So, there's very much produced as a water sandal, but a more comfort midsole to it, slightly younger in look. So appealing to a different consumer, but the same attributes that we have in our Hyperport sandal. But we've seen some fantastic results in the Hyperport compared to Newport as well.
One of the things that I find that I've got size 15 feet, so I'm fairly limited on my range of footwear. And even when I can get, say, some of the size 15s coming out of Europe, they often tend to be too narrow because I've also got a wide foot. So I've always found that getting a size to fit me in Keen footwear has never been an issue.
Well, it seems to be, yeah. Look, to be honest, that's been another focus has been obviously fit and comfort of product. And Keen, we're sort of renowned for having that wide toe box. It's our, I guess, in the marketplace, we seem to be that go-to product for anyone with a sort of a wider fit. It's definitely fits the Australian market. We grew up wearing thongs as kids. Let's be honest, and so our feet sort of splay a bit. So that natural splay of the forefoot, definitely, we cater for that with most of our product. It's one of our signatures, one of our DNAs, and something that we stand by is that sort of Keen original fit.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So what have you got coming up in the next year or so? Is there anything new and exciting you're able to talk about?
There is. I won't go into it in too much depth, but we are going to move into trail running. Trail running is a fairly big focus at the moment. I think we find that, you'll probably see it on the trails. A lot of people actually using trail running shoes for doing their hiking nowadays because they're probably doing day hikes more than multi-day hikes. So looking for lighter weight product. Trail running is not something that's new to Keen. I guess, we've been in the trail for over 20 odd years but it's something we're focusing on going forward. So we've spent the last couple of years developing some trail running products. I won't say too much. I don't want to burst the bubble because we're sort of going to do a small release in late July, August, but more focusing on seeding product, getting product on people's feet as opposed to selling it at this stage.
Yeah.
But that's a pretty exciting new innovation, and there's more products coming down the line in trail running. It's a pretty popular area right now, to be honest. But we feel there's a gap in the market there. Again, talking about the durability of it, I think most trail running shoes last somewhere between 300 to 500 miles. We've had our product tested by Helix. It's an independent testing laboratory, and the couple of models that we're releasing lasted 925 to 1,000 miles respectively. So that's industry leading in that area. We also sort of saw the gap in the market, as you mentioned, for that wider toe box. So from a fit perspective and a durability perspective, we think there's a gap in the market that we can help fulfill.
Oh, no, that's good.
Look, going forward, as I don't want to, again, we just burst the bubble, but we're currently showing product for next winter 26. Obviously, we sell well in advance, but with the innovation of Targi being the 20th anniversary, there's some new Targi lines coming in, which is aimed at more that gap between a trail runner and traditional hike, so that lighter weight product, still with a wider toe box, but lighter weight, a bit more versatile. We're finding that the consumer now is looking for something that's multifunctional, that they can almost wear on the hike, but then wear it as an urban sort of around the streets type product as well. So it's targeted very much at that 18 to 25-year-old consumer that seems to be the growth market in hike now, where they're looking for a bit more colour involved, lighter weight materials, newer materials. So there's some new Targi product coming into the marketplace from next winter. I can't really say too much now because we're just showing it, but all response to it has been absolutely fantastic. There's definitely a requirement for lighter, faster type product as well.
I must admit, my totally hiking unrelated, my sister who's in her 70s just ended up buying a pair of Targi 4s men's hiking shoes for travel, and it's because she's got a fairly big and wide foot. But she ended up with a men's fitting rather than a woman's fitting, and she said it was really comfortable. So it's surprising there. You think, okay, well, this is who it's aimed at, but it's surprising how many people are using these things for around the streets, let alone hiking as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that's again, it's been a focus from day one about, very much a hybrid type product that has multiple uses. We're seeing that specifically with, trail running as well. They not really look, most trail runners spend 50% running on pavement and then 50% running on the trail. So you need something that's, again, versatile, be able to, for both end users.
All right. No, that's good. So we've been talking to Brian from Keen Footwear Australia. Thanks very much for taking the time to chat with us and let us know what Keen Footwear's up to.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate your time.
If you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you'll know that I'm obsessed with hiking footwear, driven by the difficulty in finding that perfect fit for my size 15 feet. While Jill's feet fit within the size norm for female hikers, she also has wide feet, and this is where Keen Footwear comes in. Keen Footwear has been around for many years, with the Targi model providing the backbone to an ever-expanding range. The current Targi 4 model was voted one of Time's best inventions of 2024 and sets a new standard in performance and sustainability through its robust, eco-friendly construction. Targi has a boot or shoe option for just about every outdoor adventurer, including those with bigger feet, providing a supreme level of stability and protection against the environment and giving you the confidence to go wherever the trail takes you. If you haven't considered Keen Footwear as a hiking option, maybe it's time that you did. So in this interview, we're talking with Pia from Teva Australia. Tell us a bit about your role and the company brand to provide an overview to our listeners.
So my name's Pia. I'm the brand manager for Teva Australia and New Zealand, which basically means I oversee and manage the distribution for the territory across wholesale and D2C channels. We roll out the global strategic initiatives here locally and, in a way that's relevant to the Australian and New Zealand market. The story of Teva began in 1984 in the Grand Canyon when a river guide took the Velcro straps off his watch and attached them to his flip-flops to stop them floating away. And when he did that, he invented the first sport sandal. So, yeah, it's a pretty good story. That innovation's sort of been continuing now for sort of 40 years, and we have a range of footwear for all sorts of adventures. Our aim is to get people out into nature, whether that's on the water, on a trail or camp, and that's sort of our philosophy.
So Teva really is a footwear company, isn't it? You're not doing clothing or tents or backpacks or anything else?
No, just footwear.
What's so special about Teva as a company? Why, there's a lot of footwear companies on the market. What makes you guys so special, and what's your focus and your philosophy that makes you special?
I think Teva is a special brand. I think that there are two focuses that sort of make up the philosophy. The first thing is, that the platform that we started really focusing, we've been around for 40 years and sharpening on the focus of the origins with the platform for playground dirt. So that's a call to get people out into nature, to play outside. Teva is rooted in the outdoors. So we aim to be an essential brand for getting out into the playgrounds that nature has to offer. We see those sort of playgrounds as, water, camp and trails. So developing products and footwear to be able to get out into those in sort of families of innovative products. And then the second part is, building in the sustainable initiatives where possible into the footwear. If you want to play out in the playground, we've got to look after it too. So things like all of our webbing straps are made from 100% polyester. We partner with a company called Unify Reprieve, and they make sure that those plastics don't go into landfill and they get woven into the polyester straps. And that's a great innovation. We source leather from Leather Working Group, which is a not-for-profit initiative that aims to ensure that leather is sourced sustainably, whether that's, for example, as a byproduct of the meat industry. And we try and mix in recycled materials, in this new where possible, where, it's still possible to maintain the integrity of the EVA and things like that. Yeah, but I think as well that reaching that milestone of 40 years last year, they really zeroing in on what the brand is about, and the fact that it was, I think what also makes it special is that it came about to solve a problem, and I think that that's really at the heart of everything that we do.
I must admit, it's a brand that I and probably a lot of other people have been familiar with over many years, but it seems to have been a bit more prominent over the last couple of years. Is that just something new, or is it is just that the company's grown to a stage? It's becoming a bit more I won't say better known, but it's just become a bit more prominent.
Yeah, I think, like I said, when we came to that sort of 40-year mark, they really sort of zeroed in globally on what the brand was about. So focusing on performance and being a performance-based brand. And, the product has always been quite technical and designed to get people out there and doing activities, out in nature. So I think that with that realignment with the original ethos, I think that helps the brand really get back out there. I think in terms of sport sandals and that footwear, we, really provide a product which is, top of the market for that kind of thing.
Now, what's new and amazing as far as Teva's concerned for 2025, and if you're able to tell us beyond?
Okay, so some of the products that we've been bringing out for this year, we've been focusing on those playgrounds. So the Grandview Max Sandal and Boot, Avon Trail, and also the Hydrotech family. If we begin with the Grandview family, they come in both a sandal and a boot. They're meant to be multi-day hikers, our most technical, durable and comfortable. The boot itself has Gore-Tex, so it's a waterproof bootie. Both the sandal and the boot have Vibram Mega Grip and a light comfort midsole, and our universal heel lock system. So those are meant to be, going far and wide and getting you across those multi-day hikes.
Now, I was going to say, just before we move on from that product, Gill's going through and testing these out at the moment. And a couple of things I've noticed about them is, firstly, they're a really attractive looking boot, which, while it may not be the high priority, it's good to have a boot that works well but looks really good. And these are a really nice looking product.
I think that they've really designed them well. Yeah.
And the other thing, which is a bit unique, which I haven't seen for years on any sort of footwear, is the fact you talked about the heel lock. Talk to us a bit more about that.
So that's something that Teva has really developed, and that heel lock, it's designed to sort of make the shoes as adjustable as possible, but to keep your foot in place. And I think that's one of the key foundations of Teva products, is that adjustability. So building that in wherever possible. For example, the sandals as well have the W strapping system, which means, keeps you locked in, and, but you can customize that fit, whether you prefer it, much tighter or a bit looser, which is great.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea. And as you say, I mean, sometimes you just need that tiny bit of adjustment, and there's only so much you can do with the lacing. And I think having the ability just to tighten up that heel is quite a good thing. And Gill, even though Gill's only just started testing them out, she said she's been playing with that and managing to get just the right fit on it. So it's quite a good thing to get as best a fit as possible.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I actually wore them to do the Coast Trek in April, the boots. And I found they worked really well. Such a long walk all in one day, but they were really comfortable right the way through, which was great. Yeah. So, and then if we move on to the Avon Trail family, so we have launched the Avon Trail running sandal and the Avon Trail shoe. And I think what's cool about the Avon Trail family is there's a process that the US team has been incorporating, athletes and the end user into that design iteration process. And I think that's quite reflected in the Avon Trail as a product. So the sort of flagship of the family is the Avon Trail running sandal. It has, a hypercomp sort of sole made of supercritical foams and EVA. So it's quite responsive, and it's got a nylon plate. It was actually worn by Mike Wardy, and I think he's worn both the sandal and the shoe on the Appalachian Trail, and he's been really instrumental in the feedback process and that design iteration process, which is great. Again, I think that goes back to the roots of the brand of being there to solve a problem and keeping the end user in focus. They have spider rubber on the sole, tiered traction lugs, and so the shoe and the sandal both have that same sole makeup, which is great. They're made for fast hiking, trail running, and really going those longer distances. Then coming into summer, we have the R2T, which is the stands for road to trail, basically. So it's a sort of a slightly lighter version of the Avon Trail. It's sort of designed for not going quite as long in those distances, but more for everyday and shorter runs. The lugs are 3.5 millimeters, but they're designed more for going from road to gravel, whereas the Avon Trail is made more for that direct travel.
What was that model again?
The R2T. So that'll be coming out as we get to summer.
Okay, so that's one that I was just trying to find it out, and so that's one that's coming into the system, but not quite there yet.
Not quite there yet, yeah. But I think that's sort of come about from that iteration process. What's the next step? How can we make the product better? So if you're looking for that sort of longer distances and going further, you've got Avon Trail in the shoe and the sandal. And then, from going those shorter distances, everyday runs between road and trail, you've got the RCC Avon Trail. And look, I know that they've got a lot of, new and cool things in the pipeline, which hopefully will start to come down to our market as well. They're still in that iteration process.
Okay, that's good.
The product that I wanted to talk about was Hydrotrek, which I think the Hydrotrek sandal's been a great innovation. It's been around sort of a couple of seasons now, but we're getting extremely good feedback on it. The idea behind it uses technology which is inspired by tree frogs. So the lugs help disperse water and increase surface traction. So this is a sandal that's made for playing in the water. It's got padded straps. This sandal, the Hydro Track, is more about flexibility and adaptability. It's sort of much softer than, say, something like the Grandview. It's made for being flexible and comfortable and giving good traction. Rather than just a straight up hiker.
Now, the Hydro Track, as you say, it's been around for a while, so that's readily available in stores, is it?
It is, yes. And I think you'll see coming out more iterations building out that family. So using that same technology with the lugs and building that into more closed-toe versions and things like that coming through in the next and future seasons as well.
Okay, no, that's good. I must admit, I don't know. I know a lot of Americans do use sandals for hiking, and I just don't quite understand it. And whether we seem to be a bit more focused on snakes here, I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I find whenever I'm wearing sandals, I'll find any rock that'll get caught between the toes. So I do like having that fully covered sort of boot. But But certainly, I do use the sandals for possibly the end of the day or just for casual wears. So I think, they're a bit more the sandal style. The flip flops just don't work for me when I'm out on trail. They just get lost. So having a good solid grip and strapping system like the sandals provide really are the way to go.
Yeah, we're always there for you at the end of the trail.
Yeah. Thanks very much for that. So we've been talking with Pierre from Teva Australia. Looking forward to putting out Gill's review on the Grandview boots. And again, they're looking really good so far. So again, this is a product that I think we'll start seeing more and more of on trail. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Now we're going to talk to Simon and Carlos from Zen. Now, Zen is a multi-brand importer and distributor of a number of key brands, and the well-known ones that people might know are Buff, Leatherman and Ledlenser amongst them. So thanks very much for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you, Tim.
Absolute pleasure, Tim. Thanks for having us.
All right, so like a lot of importers and manufacturers, you are dealing with a number of well-known brands on the market. Let's talk about the key ones that hikers would probably know more about. We'll start off with Ledlenser. This is a brand of lighting that I've been aware of for the last few years and haven't had a chance to get to know them too well. Tell us a bit about Ledlenser and what are the new or the key exciting lights that people might be interested in.
Well, I'm glad that you've heard of the brand, Tim. The Ledlenser brand has been around since 1993. Beautifully made German engineering. Was founded by two brothers way back and who really created or transferred LED lighting into a portable solution and really have now become the world leader in premium LED torches, headlamps, lanterns and the like. As I mentioned, full German engineering to meet extreme performance, smart design, innovation crammed in tiny little spaces. And some of the, I suppose, key selling points of the Ledlenser brand sit inside what we call the AFS system, so an advanced focus system, which enables the light to be used much more effectively. Smart light technology, which controls battery power management. And one of the big things that, many of your listeners might be aware of is it's very common for LEDs to get hot. So one of the best parts of the Ledlenser system is built into the cooling technology. So it's designed for adventurers, all sorts of different uses. I could go on about Ledlenser. It's one of my favorite brands. I probably use it every day. But Carlos, maybe if there's anything else you want to throw in there.
Yeah, look, I think from a brand perspective, echoing, what you said, Simon, but I think importantly as well, one of the key things I think about when I go hiking, I think about listeners of this show is probably the runtime. And obviously coming back to that German engineering and making sure runtime is at the high level, and especially as we go into the colder months where it's darker for longer, going on those, potentially more adventurous nighttime hikes through various places. That's what I really look for is, just some key features like runtime is really what highlights that brand for me. And you look at some classic ranges, but in particular that lightweight range across the Neo series, their runtime, their beam distance and just ultimately, all the features you get from the product, but, really well received amongst that hiking community. So, some really good products there, especially that Neo range that could be beneficial for some of their listeners that are listening today.
Now
Yeah,
that
Tim, and that Neo is NEO, so Neo. And, you make a great point. You're looking for lightweight and powerful, like the Neo 5R, beautiful headlamp, fully rechargeable, batteries on the back, an effective range of 100 meters, 600 lumen output with a 35-hour usage. It makes for sort of like the perfect hiking headlamp, which it's my go-to. And the beauty of it is rechargeable. I know a lot of people on trails like alkaline, purely, for the ability to be able to swap those batteries in and out, and some cold management issues that sometimes alkaline is better for. But personally, I just carry a lead lens power bank as well. And I could probably say of the hundreds of times I've been out with that light, I've never had an issue once with running out of power. So it's a good suggestion, and the lead lens and Neo 5R.
All right. Now you mentioned alkaline batteries. Is this a rechargeable one, or can you swap out alkalines for this, or is what's the dedicated power source on it?
It is a dedicated rechargeable, so you can't swap out the alkalines in this one. That's just the unfortunate nature of this design. But yeah, that's fully rechargeable, 104 grams, so super lightweight.
Yep.
But yeah, I personally, I find with myself, if I take the alkalines, I can kind of just forget them in my pack and they go flat anyway. So I just always run with the rechargeable.
No.
Yeah, I think your listeners will probably even attest to when you got a good rechargeable, especially something that's made really well of high quality, that run time usually lasts. And as we know, anytime we use a headlamp, you use it, turning it on and off multiple times. And coming back to Simon's point, if you do want to carry a power bank, that may help. But I think what you'll find, especially with the lead lens or the rechargeable range, is having confidence in the ability for the battery to last. And that's where the runtime and the German engineering comes into it.
Okay.
Inside the same Neo family, there is an alkaline version as well, which is the Neo 3. Not rechargeable, but fully alkaline, runs on AAA.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so it gives people the option. Now, with the rechargeable one, what sort of a charging cable? What's the fitting on the charging cable? Is it USB-C or USB Mini or?
Yeah,
getting into the technicals there.
Great technicals. Hey, lead lenses, like you will find a lot of manufacturers of any rechargeable cable now. The Neo series runs off USB-C.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's
so
good.
yeah, I'm sure everyone has one of those at home nowadays.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that is, certainly because the European Union has been pushing on the USB-C. I know a number of manufacturers across not just hiking gear, all gear have been slowly changing over. So, as you say, the USB-C seems to be the little standard these days, and pretty much most people will have that, and it'll do just about everything else these days as well.
Yeah, that's one major change the brand is working towards now. The lead lens and MagSafe charger has been something that some people love, some people haven't. But we're always honest and transparent with our products. With any of our products, any of our brands are leading in their category. But yeah, lead lenses are moving now towards 100% USB-C, which will make a lot of people very happy.
Yeah, no, that's good. I must admit, I always find that when I go hiking, I end up with a whole bunch of cables for my phone, my watch, the whole lot. They're all different. So being able to narrow that range down certainly helps. So let's moving on from lead lenser into Leatherman. Now, Leatherman is a product that if people have been involved in the outdoors for quite a while, it's a product they'll know well. Mm-hmm. It's and I suppose the way I've always seen it as being a multi-tool range, and I don't know if they describe that differently at all. So tell us a bit about Leatherman.
Yeah, well, you're right. Leatherman's a staple name. It's, one of those wonderful products that has earned its right to be kind of its own category. Pass me a Leatherman tool, in the sense that it is a fully operational multi-tool, multiple tools in one tool. So you've got everything from plier to knife to all sorts of bits and pieces. But a heritage brand. It's been around the outdoor lifestyle hardware industries now since 1983, when Tim, the founder, started the brand. I suppose it's one of those heritage stories where it really was etched off the back of a real need. So Tim was traveling Europe, and rather than wanting to carry a toolbox, he said, I need to create something where I can have a knife, a plier, a screwdriver, and a file in one tool that I can carry where it's small. And, thus was born Leatherman. The inventor of the original multi-tool. Many have tried and failed to try and build something like a Leatherman tool. But the range is very, very wide, Tim. Lifetime warranty or limited lifetime warranty, which means that we cover the product, we stand by the product. And it's an absolute go-to for, from everything from tradies to adventurers to just everyday carry. I carry a Leatherman tool every day. So do many, as they have sadly been given to security officers at airports. A lot of people carry them every single day.
Yeah, I think it shouldn't be the case, but I must admit I've done the same thing. I've tried to carry a knife through security, not realising it was in the container it was. So yeah, it's thanks very much, and we'll see you later, sort of thing. So
yeah, we've all been there for sure.
It keeps our brand ticking along.
It's a good point. It does. But yet there's probably a few staples inside of the Leatherman brand that many people, if they don't own, will know about, and that's the Wave tool. So the Wave tool really revolutionized multi-tools because it was delivered in a small architecture but with heavy-duty stainless steel bits. So it meant that you could actually have a genuine set of pliers in your hand right through to a very, very useful knife and an effective screwdriver. But from the Wave tool, came the Free series, and then now we've branched out into many different ranges in different sorts of colours and all sorts. So I think the definition that we like to say is, what are you using a Leatherman tool for? Because it's more than likely you're going to need more than one. Because if you're looking for something very heavy duty, we're going to push you into the full size tools. But if you're looking for something a little bit more lightweight, ready for the trail, there's a specific range for that as well, and now available in some pretty sexy new colours.
Yeah, I think that's the thing these days, isn't it? You can only put so many pairs of pliers and knives and things like that on these sort of things, and then it comes down to how do we differentiate, and as you say, the colours and the appearance is while it's not as critical, people do appreciate something that looks good as well as functional.
Absolutely.
Okay.
One of the things we're actually seeing is that colours, for our retailers, colours actually sell their core. The more options they give people, it actually sells the core more. But it does give the consumer that option to, flare out to match their lifestyle or match their kit, whatever it might be. Sorry, Carlos, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to, when we talk about Leatherman, and you're right, how does Leatherman change and keep innovating? And you're right, the colours has been a real big part of that. From our retailers, but also, what we're finding is people that are hiking, at times when you do hike, things seem to fall into certain parts and fall on the ground, and actually the colours provide a really great benefit to easily find our tools. And coming back to, as you mentioned as well, Simon, the ability to make these amazing tools, which are, the strength of them and the limited lifetime warranty you think of, but also thinking about that weight and making sure they're as light as possible for those people on the trails. And there's some great ranges that really meet those, such as the Skeletal and the Signal range. But when you're looking at a Skeletal of just around about a tick over 140 grams, something you can easily throw in a bag or carry and not weigh you down significantly on those big walks or big trails you're going on.
I must admit, my reason for carrying a knife is to cut cheese, and that's about it. But every so often you do need something, some other tool, whether it's a hex key or something like that. And again, having a multi-tool where you've got the ability to choose a range of tools that suit your needs certainly does help. And I think Leatherman probably has the reputation as being the premium range on the market. As you say, many people have tried to copy it, and there's probably a lot of cheap copies out there, but they just don't have the durability and the quality that go into the Leatherman range.
That's right.
One thing, Tim, that I look at, and we can sit and talk about Leatherman all day, but one thing that's really been great for our brand recently, and I suppose many of your listeners are also probably fans of the Alone series. When you look at essential tools they take with them on that series, that you'll find a Leatherman front and center during the series, and then just you speak of what do we use our Leathermans for? Some of the things they're using our Leathermans for on that show, and I'm sure some of your hikers and your listeners would tell you some amazing stories of what they've used their Leathermans for in the past.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think people can get pretty imaginative on what they use some of these things for. So, okay. Now that's the second range we're going to talk about. Now on to Buff. I believe you're the distributors in Australia for Buff.
We are very, very excitedly. So we are. We took over exclusive management of the Buff brand a couple of years ago, and just a wonderful, wonderful brand that, to be honest, has actually surprised us by the demand from the market. Founded in 1992 in Spain, they really were the first to market in creating a multifunctional neckwear or headwear garment called a Buff. Like who would have? It's a pretty easy name, right? Easy name to remember. But the versatility of this product, not only is it a lot of people just purchasing for its stylish, in the way it looks, but it's seamless, breathable, protection from the sun, the winds, the cold, the dust, whether it's pulled up over your mouth, from your neck, pulled up over your mouth, or used, one of 12 ways on your head, around your neck, up over your mouth, all sorts of different things. It's just a versatile piece of kit. And whether it's someone on the trails or just, kids running around the backyard, through to cyclists, very, very popular with cyclists because there's that little gap between the top of your jersey and the bottom of your helmet that's always getting burnt on the back of your neck. So just having a very, very lightweight, breathable, seamless, that's another really important part about the Buff range is it's seamless, so it doesn't rub. Just having that on the back of your neck is huge. And or wet, just to keep you a bit cool. It's just such a versatile, cool product. Not only does the brand make some awesome products, but their eco-consciousness is incredible in the way they recycle the materials. All of their practices are sustainable. It's a pretty cool brand, and they've been around for a long time and they know what they're doing.
I must admit, there's certain pieces of gear that come on every hike that I do, and Buff is one of them. I will always have one, and depending on the time of the year, a second one as well. I'll tend to carry a lightweight one.
What's your colour of choice?
We've actually got an Australian hiker Buff, which we had made up a couple of years ago, and that's just a wattle motif. And I'll then also I'll use the lightweight version. Apart from keeping me protected from the sun, having no hair, I also use it for if I need to. If the water's really bad and it's a bit chunky, I'll use it to filter out particles out of the water as well. So it gets a lot of
great point.
Gets a lot of multi-use out of that. And then in wintertime, I'll use one of the wool Buffs when I need a bit more warmth in the colder temperatures. But
yeah, I think what you're speaking about there, Tim, is just the versatility of the brand, and the, you do have the lightweight eco stretch to maybe some merino wool to keep you warmer. So you do need to think about the climate. I also love the fact that you guys went out and made some Australian hiker branded Buffs. What we're seeing a lot of is actually some big tour groups who are leading some amazing hikes, such as, we did a customization recently as a brand and with a group that was going to Nepal, taking a massive group, and they got their own branded Buffs, for the trip, which was an amazing one to work with such a unique experience to take a large group of people to Nepal for an amazing hike to base camp. And they, of course, one of the key items that you must have or you must take with you is that Buff or that multifunctional neckwear that happens to also be called Buff as per the brand. But, that co-branding feature and some amazing opportunities and great organisations that we've collaborated with being Buff here in Australia, but also with some amazing Australian brands in the, such as yourself, we've done in the past that you did. But some other companies that have come on board and co-branded this amazing product.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good. Okay, now, last brand I wanted to have a chat to you about was Right in the Rain. Now, this is a bit of a unique product that a lot of people may not have heard of. Tell us a bit about Right the Rain and what it does and a bit about the range in general.
That's a great point. It's in the name, actually, Write in the Rain. It enables you to write in the rain. And, a lot of people might kind of go, well, what's the point of that? But when you actually think about it and see an application, you realize, oh, wow, actually, this is super cool. So it's an old brand as well, Heritage, 1916. It's been around for a very, very long time. They were the first to market in creating a paper substance that was actually waterproof once written on. And they've really pioneered their way through this all-weather writing paper. And you would be stunned at the amount of customers we speak to that are from all sorts of different walks of life and using it for all sorts of different things, from, defense force through to outdoor workers, farmers, scientists, hikers, explorers, musicians, all sorts of different things that are looking for a water-resistant, tear-resistant, and more than that, archival-grade paper. We've been really, really surprised at how well this brand has gone, and it's been really well picked up by a number of our customers. But it works with pencil and pen and can be used in muddy, rainy, snowy even situations. It's a very cool product. Very cool product.
I think that's the thing. I mean, these days that we've probably not, we don't use diaries as much as we probably did 10 or 20 years ago, having phones, but there are still people that take journals and diaries with them on trail. And there's nothing worse than, the pen doesn't work properly, or you start tearing holes in the paper because it's damp. With this product, I've got some sitting at home. I don't use it that often, but when it is wet, you can write in it and it works really well.
It's certainly, as Simon spoke about, really just been such a unique product. One of the great stories and that I've been, privileged to see is actually the education sector using this product, and that goes from secondary students to some university type students who, as part of their courses, are going on adventures and think of Duke of Ed at a secondary school level, but what we're seeing is a lot of schools promoting getting outdoors and getting off devices. And one of the things I want to do is, when you're outdoors or you're on a trek or a hike as part of a group, log your memories and maybe take some notes and, diarize things. And it's been great to see, schools and also universities, really take away the device. You can't take your iPad to put it in the notes section or anything like that. It's more about getting people to handwrite and actually experiencing that, but ultimately using Write in the Rain, because you're right, Tim, making sure that you can do it, because you might see some unforeseen weather and some inclement weather, and Write in the Rain is perfect for that. And there are such a multitude of uses for that Write in the Rain product, but one of the things that I've really enjoyed seeing is that education part. Being a young father that I am, and having young kids who, at times, we have the frustrations of seeing them being addicted to their devices, actually seeing schools promote, go out and actually write something down. But and Write in the Rain's really been a great solution for these companies that are working with these education company or schools and universities. And so that's really been a highlight of just getting back to old school ways of handwriting. So it is a truly unique product that has so many ways you can use it. But that's been a real highlight for me.
So I was going to say, I must admit, whenever I do any overseas hikes, I'll always take pen and paper, and if they've got the option, certainly in some of the colder, wetter climates, Write in the Rain is definitely the way to go. And even in Australia, if I'm somewhere where I don't have phone signal or I'm not doing social media, it's a better option, and you're not having to rely on charging your phone or charging your iPad on a regular basis, which you may not have the option of doing.
Oh, look, writing in a journal is something still, very romantic about it, and maybe, things will, everything comes in waves and cyclical, and people start writing journals, and you never know what conditions you're going to be in. Write in the Rain can handle all. So, perfect solution.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much for that. It's again, there's some great products that you guys stock, and if you haven't seen some of the lesser known products, it's worthwhile having a look at. And as with this interview and the other interviews in this podcast, go to the show notes, and I have some images of the product we've talked about. Thanks for having a chat with us.
Thanks so much, Tim.
Hey, Tim, thank you very much, and really appreciate getting out there. And any further information you need, please refer to your show notes, and and happy trails. Get out there.
Just to finish off this podcast episode, we just want to briefly touch on some of the things that each of the distributors talk about. And then we're going to talk about more in detail about where we see the industry heading over the next couple of years. First up, we talked to Andrew from North Face. And again, North Face's focus this year is on their range of shoes, including some old guards, if you like. So the Hedgehog series, which were around a number of years ago, seemed to disappear off the market and has come back again with a bit of a vengeance. And I think the reason for that is they were considered one of the best hiking shoes of the time. And obviously, companies decide they're going to do something different or change things, and people, the demand for people was obviously there, that they've brought it back, and it's coming back on trail again. Certainly new ranges of shoes, things like the off-trail hike shoe. That's one that Gill will be testing out in the coming weeks and months, and it's a good-looking shoe, and we'll see how it works out as well. The other key thing from the North Face was their new range of jackets, the Terra Peak jackets. Now, for us, we, for many years, have been using the North Face thermoball jackets, and we decided it was time for some new jackets, and we had plenty of options, and we did actually end up opting for the Terra Peak jackets. And they are a funny sort of jacket, because when we tried them on for the first time, we thought, they're just a down jacket, not realizing that they were actually a synthetic jacket, but they just feel like a down jacket, and it's just surprising. But they've got the benefits of the synthetic in that if they get sopping wet, they still keep you warm. So it's a good all-purpose jacket. And if you ever look at some of the European hiking magazines, you tend to find that they don't advertise down jacket in Europe because of the wet weather, very much so that they tend to use synthetic jackets in that market. From there, we moved on to the Cedar Summit brand, which is an Australian brand. And we talked to Ross, and we've caught up with Ross for a number of years now. So the first range we talked to from Cedar Summit was their synthetic sleeping bags. Now, by far, as Ross mentioned, 85% of the market in Australia and around the world tends to be down sleeping bags, mainly because they're more compact and a warmer, better quality bag overall, but they don't have the durability that the synthetic bags tend to have. So if you're hiring sleeping bags, tend to find that they'll tend to be synthetic, mainly because of that durability and also the price as well. The other benefit of synthetic bags is even if you drop the thing in water and it gets sopping wet, they will still keep you warm. So not a big seller, certainly from his perspective. Ross was saying around about 15% of their sales worldwide, but they certainly have a place. And if you're only hiking or camping irregularly, it might be a better option rather than spending $600, $700, $800, $900, $1,000 on a really high-grade down bag. The other thing that Ross mentioned was the new sleeping pads. Now, they have had a range of Etherlite sleeping mats or sleeping pads on the market for a few years, and they've gone through and done a revamp. And this is one of these strange things where the weight has dropped dramatically, the bulkiness once they're packed has also reduced quite dramatically, and their Etherlite XR, which is the black one, I think they were saying it was something like 80% less bulk once it's actually packed down. So, you find that weight is one issue in a sleeping pad, but you also don't want something that's going to half fill your pack because it's so bulky. So they've managed to have quite a big bulk reduction. And funnily enough, they've also dropped the price. So, it's rare you get something that becomes more durable, lighter and more compact, and then becomes cheaper as well. So I think these have been a sleeping mat that people have found to be very popular in the Australian market. And it's just another reason for the increased popularity of this particular brand of sleeping pads. Last but not least, they're talking about a new range of pillows that'll be coming up towards the end of the year, early next year. And Cedar Summit have probably had the reputation of being the go-to if you are using a hiking pillow. And again, it sounds like they're going through and giving the same treatment that they've done to their sleeping mats, making them more compact, making them lighter, more durable, and who knows, hopefully more cheaper, but we'll see what happens when they come out onto the market. Then we talked to Brian from Keen Footwear. Now, Keen is a brand that's been around for a number of years, and certainly from my perspective, the Taji range has probably been the best known one. If you're into long distance hiking and, 10 years or so ago, that was the brand that pretty much everyone used on the long distance trails in the US, and they still are really popular. So they're a hiking shoe rather than a trail runner or a hiking boot. And the bonus of Keen is they make a good range of sizes up to some very large sizes. I've got size 15 feet, never had a problem getting Keen footwear. And they also make their standard footwear is wide-ish, but they also do a wide model on top of that. So for me, size 15 feet, also very wide feet, I find that I go for the wide version, and they are really comfortable. So they are a good brand, and they're a model that's been around, and they do boots, they do hiking shoes, and they also do sandals. And they've been around and they keep on improving. And the biggest thing from Keen's perspective, the biggest change from the Keen Taji 3 to the 4 is they've gone away from using glue to keep the whole thing together, and they've actually gone through and used a fused and bonded, and I think the term they used was welded, which resulted them getting a Time Invention of the Year award last year. Because they've worked out a way to avoid using glue. And I think this is the thing when we talk about sustainability more in detail in a few minutes' time. It's a way of just getting chemicals out of the products as best they can. Brian did mention that they've got some new trail runners to be released July, early August. He didn't provide too much detail online for while we did the interview, but post-interview and post-recording, it sounds like there are going to be some pretty amazing products coming onto the market in the next month or two that'll be well worth keeping an eye out for. Then we talked to Pia from Teva, and I must admit, the name isn't actually Teva. It's just out of habit that I've saved that. It's Teva. And I found when I tried to search Teva online, there's medical companies and there's a couple other brands as well that use the same spelling, but it's Teva. And they are a brand that have been around for quite a while. And currently Gill is testing out a boot of theirs called the Grandview Max. And they're quite an attractive boot. And Gill will release the review of that in about another 4 weeks. They look like quite a good option. Another model they also put out are the sandals, so the Avondale family and the Hydra Track. So again, they provide a good range of footwear to suit just about anybody's needs. Last but not least, we talked to Simon and Carlos from Zen Imports. Zen is a company that imports a number of brands, but certainly the key ones tend to be Leadlenser, Leatherman, and Buff. Buff is one of those brands that speaks for itself, and for us, it is probably the top-ranking piece of equipment we've ever tested. It's just so versatile, useful for so many reasons. I will always carry at least one Buff on a trip, and if it's a wintertime trip, I'll carry a second one as well. And again, it's one of these sort of things that you'll always find a use for a Buff, whether it's just to protect you from the sun, to use as a piece of headwear or neckwear, or even just to do something strange like filter water. And when I say filter water, the chunky bits out of the water. So they're quite a good brand there. Leatherman are outdoor tool designed, the bigger ones have pliers and all sorts of tools. There are smaller options as well. And if you're looking at a multi-tool for a hike, it's a great option. And last but not least, Leadlenser, again, one of those well-known brands for producing headlamps. And they certainly produce a range from the very small and compact to the very large and very powerful beams. So this is a brand you'll often see in the stores, whereas probably 5, 10, 15 years ago, not so common. Now they're pretty much up there with the brands that you'll see around the place. As a generalization from where we're heading and what the industry is doing, over the last 5 to 6 years, sustainability has probably been one of the key things that companies have looked at. They've gone through and tried to reduce the frequency of what they class as forever chemicals, so things like PFAS and other chemicals, out of their products. And most companies have pretty much got rid of that now. They've gone through and looked at how they can make products that can be recycled. So rather than throwing it in landfill, and I know that one of the things they're looking at these days is recycling down. So most people, when they get rid of an old down jacket or an old sleeping bag, will throw it in the rubbish and that's it. But the ability to reclaim that down, clean it, get rid of what's not useful out of there, and regrade it again, rather than basically what amounts to killing ducks and geese for the meat industry, the poultry industry, but also for use in down as well. So I think the whole process of recycling, every company we talk to is doing something in the form of recycling, and it's now become, rather than just something special, and it certainly still is, it's something that's now become business as usual, that everyone is looking at ways that they can improve the sustainability, including minimizing chemicals in use and also minimizing the waste that ends up in the rubbish tips. So it's good to see that they're all going along that sort of way. The other thing that's impacting the industry at the moment is the consolidation of a lot of companies into larger groups. Years ago, a lot of these companies that we now recognize as international brand names probably ended up starting out as mum and dad companies. They've built and grown and become large international companies. But now a lot of these brands have been bought out by large conglomerates. And you'll find that when you actually look at the brand names you recognize in the stores that you go to, there's when you get back to who owns them, there's a dwindling number of companies that sit behind them. Now, for most people, really doesn't matter. What it does mean, though, is a couple of ways in how the companies are being organized and structured. So if you had listened through this whole episode, you will notice that most people we talk to had the title brand manager. So it means they're sitting under a large company and they're responsible for a particular brand that they're working with. Not in all cases, but certainly that was a common theme that was probably, for me, more noticeable this year than in previous years. What that means is they're working on using economies of scale. So you'll find they might be housed in one building. I don't know, in all honesty, but it means that you're not having to have a warehouse for each particular brand. It's just a larger warehouse that's being dealt with. It helps to minimize their costs. And one thing it does do is also change the way they're being promoted. It gives that economy of scale. So you're now starting to see some brands that are more recognizable and noticeable, whereas 5 or 10 years ago, they were there, but you really didn't think about them. So it is impacting on how brands are being advertised, how they're actually developing new product, and that certainly is changing a lot in relation to how things are going on. Now, in most cases, as I said, it's probably a lot of benefit more than anything else. But one thing that some of these larger companies are doing is they're either spending more money on research and development, and I think a lot of them tend to be doing that, and as a result, bringing new product out probably at a faster rate than what used to happen. There's pros and cons to this consolidation of companies around, but on the whole, I think the pros win out. But what it does mean is a lot of the little cottage industry companies that are present in the States and even through in Australia are certainly going to see an impact in the coming couple of years based on the tariff issues that are being dealt with in the States at the moment. If they're having to import a lot of their materials from overseas, which is where it comes from, that's going to increase their costs quite dramatically. And it may be something that actually pushes a lot of these companies out of business because they just can't afford to compete with the big companies that are consolidating. Hard to say what's going to happen in that area. Certainly, I've seen some of the US-based cottage industry companies having to make major changes, and whether they survive or not, time will only tell. I think the ones that have got good, strong product range will live. Ones that maybe aren't as efficient as they could be may disappear from the market in the coming years, but only time will tell. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode, brought to you by Keen Footwear. That's all for me. Bye for now.